There seems to be a prevailing tendency to want to do away with the entire dimension of spiritual evil among some believers. Now, this is a catastrophic departure from truth. Not to see that there are demons in the Bible and an external Satan is an extraordinary blindness. After all, in Matthew 4, in the temptation story, the devil approaches Jesus, proseiton in Greek, and I'm using a modern Greek pronunciation for our Greek words, means to approach, to come up to somebody. It doesn't mean to come from inside the person. So the idea of Jesus tempting himself with twisted Bible verses is really rather sad. It's completely unthinkable. No, the devil, the Satan, the devil with the article, the one we all recognize, comes up to Jesus, approaches him, and tempts him. And then later the angels, proseiton, they come up to Jesus. There's no question about this being an external tempter. But if one really wants to study the issue, one would look at the demons about 100 times in the Synoptic Gospels, at least many references to daemonia. A demon is a non-human supernatural personality. Daemonia in Greek does not mean a mental illness, much less does it mean a human being who's demonized. The difference between being demonized and the demon is quite clear. We know the difference between somebody who terrorizes and a terrorist. This is elementary plain English. And so the demonized person is the victim of the demon. The daemonia are supernatural, presumably fallen angels, and they are enemies of Jesus and of God, and they're under the control of the devil. So to eliminate that element of Scripture is to wipe out a whole dimension of revelation and put oneself actually in a very dangerous position. One might succumb to the greatest of the doctrines of demons, which is that there are no demons and no Satan.
You want to provide some examples from Scripture?
The classic place to look at this subject would be in Luke 4:41, where we read that the demons cried out and recognized Jesus as the Messiah. The demons cried out. Now, there were human victims, clearly, were instrumental in the sense that their vocal cords were being used by these demonic forces. But the demons cried out, and then in the Greek it says that Jesus rebuked them. The demons, not the human beings, not the victims, but the demons being neuter in Greek. Jesus then rebuked them, after they are neuter. And so it's quite clear that they're completely clear, distinct supernatural personalities here, can request things from Jesus. Jesus speaks to them, they speak to Jesus. To eliminate them is to assault the narrative text, which is so clear. The Satan is equally clear in the Old Testament, and the revelation given as to who that character was in the Garden of Eden is utterly clear in the book of Revelation, which is our inspired New Testament authority, inspired comment on the Old. We learn that the devil, the ancient serpent, is the Satan, is the devil. That clarifies that. There's no way of getting around it. As long as one believes in the New Testament Scripture as commentary on the Old, that's defined for us. So the Satan is right there. He's there in the book of Job, obviously external to Job, and he's under the control of God, although God allows him a certain range of freedom to be a tester for human beings. And he seems to get worse and worse in the New Testament. But exactly what that means, I don't know. But to say that he is human nature is not only biblically quite wrong, but it's psychologically dangerous for human beings to think that they are the devil. The greatest clarity comes, though, with the demons in Luke 4:41, because the demons are crying out. They're individual personalities. Sometimes they're legion. There's more than one demon. I think 7 demons came out of Mary Magdalene. So they are individual personalities, sometimes collectively ranged together, and they're quite distinct from the human personality they inhabit. The demonized person is quite distinct from the daemonia, the demons themselves. Sometimes an excuse is made by those who want to tell us that the word demon in Greek must mean a departed human spirit. That's nothing to do with it. No doubt there were Greeks who thought that demons were departed human spirits. The Bible doesn't deal with that. There are no departed human conscious spirits in the Bible. That's excluded. But it doesn't get rid of the demons themselves. Perhaps the most telling statement of all is in James, where we find James says, even the demons believe in the one God. They're Unitarians. The demons know that God is one, and they tremble. You ask somebody who doesn't believe in the existence of demons what that means, and it becomes a sort of free-for-all juggling of words, metaphors, allegories, all sorts of fog language to get rid of the obvious. The demons, they're daemonia. They're a well-known category in the mind of the New Testament writers. They know that God indeed is one, and they tremble. The word Satan is not just an adversary. It's perfectly true that human beings can be Satans to each other. They can stand in opposition to each other. There's a vast difference between a Satan and the Satan. That is fundamental. We find the Satan in Matthew and Mark and Luke. This is not any old Satan. This is a proper name for a real being, the Satan. And so it's to get off on the wrong foot immediately to say, oh, we know there can be Satans. Everybody knows that. The point is, there is one who is singled out as the Satan, the adversary. No human being is called a demon in the New Testament. A human being can indeed be a diabolos, a devil, but he cannot be a demon. The demons are a class of personality quite separate from human beings. They're evil, they're opposed to God, and they will finally be destroyed. Sometimes people will say, I won't believe in the demons until you tell me the origin of them. That's frankly a bit silly, because you may not know the origin of the Pharisees, but I don't think you would want to question their existence. So that doesn't follow logically at all. They appear to be fallen angels. That's not explicit in Scripture, perhaps, but the obvious explanation, I think the most easy one, would be that they're part of that group of fallen angels involved in the Genesis 6 episode. That's not entirely clear. It doesn't matter. We're supposed to believe in the narrative text of Scripture, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and there the demons are quite obviously part of the scene. The other argument that sometimes is produced is that Jesus was just going along, playing along with the ignorance of the people. Well, if that's your view, that's called accommodation. Jesus really didn't want to disturb them, and he knew better. Jesus knew, of course, it was a sort of wink-wink, nudge-nudge affair. He pretends to believe in the demons, but he knows full well that they don't exist. We're now in the realm, then, of tearing down the authority of Scripture, and it's a complete free-for-all if you can imagine that Jesus only supposed that demons existed in the minds of ignorant people, and he knew well that they didn't. If that's so, nothing in Scripture would hint at that in any possible way.